And good evening, everyone. ESS, Empire State Sports, proudly presents the Wise Guys Sports Talk Show. With your host tonight, Joey Ree, I'm Dave Bartlett, myself, Pete Gosselin, our special guest from St. Lawrence Central, girls varsity coach, softball coach, Tim Brown. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Not a lot going on this time of year, unfortunately, and I guess we'll start off with that. Is you didn't have a season this year?
No,
gonna be heart wrenching.
It very much so. We had a week of practice, and especially after our success last year, really looking forward to getting back. Had a great group of returning players and had some really nice young players coming up. I was really looking forward to it. I mean, I don't know what we would have done in the Central. I think we would have competed fairly well. But I was really looking forward to it. I had a lot of nice young kids coming.
Coach, obviously softball is going to be our main topic of discussion, and I sure as heck want to dive into that. But I got to ask you. So Coach Brown is one of our art teachers at school. What was teaching art like online or in the Chromebook world for 3 months?
Well, I mean, if you know any kids that know me, I'm really, you got to be in the class to appreciate what we do.
Yeah.
We did a lot of like technical stuff, with some how-to videos and things like that. But that's not really the way to create art. Creating art is kind of getting your hands in there, just starting to make some mistakes, try again, make mistakes, try again. That's how you learn. And unfortunately, it wasn't a lot of fun. I didn't enjoy it. I love to see the kids every day. I like to see what they create, what they come up with. And it was unfortunate that happened. And again, I like to see the kids every day, and it's just no fun not being able to see them.
Yeah, I hear you. We're same here, and I miss walking the halls. And but it was one of the things I was thinking about today as I was trying to think of things to talk about. It was, how was teaching art over a Chromebook for 3 months?
Yeah, there was a few kids. I mean, I tried to do like some Earth Day assignments where they could use their cell phones and photograph and do some different things that way. A little bit more interactive things. I mean, they had to make their own decisions, really. Couldn't do a lot of instruction, like you can if I'm over their shoulder. And some of them came up with some really neat stuff, kind of figured some things out on their own, which is a really nice way to learn. I have a few kids that produced some really good work, and some kids that produced work that was a surprise because I don't know if they had more time on it at home. They could do it on their own time, which is what I heard a lot of kids say they liked. So some of them did pretty good stuff, actually.
Well, here's hoping, fingers crossed, you don't have to do it too much.
No.
If and when we come back. So
yeah, I hope not.
Yeah, I know.
A little bit here and there can work, but I need that connection with kids.
Yeah,
that's what works for me.
I hear you. All right, Coach. Well, why don't we start with give the viewers a little bit of a background of who you are, where you came from, and how you got here, and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether it takes 2 minutes or 20. If you got Jerry Mahoney 20 minutes in you, that's what we'd love. But if it takes a couple, go ahead.
It's a pretty good story. I mean, I actually was born and raised in Waddington until my parents moved down to Florida when I was going into 7th grade. I graduated from Waddington Elementary School. I might have been going in 8th grade. I'm not sure. We moved down to Florida, and I went from a very small school to a really big school. I was the second class to graduate out of this. It was a brand new school, and there were 310 kids in my graduating class. And up here, there was maybe 80 some. So that was quite a shock. And then I moved back up here to go to school, and I've stayed up here ever since. And how I came to be about in Brazier was really pretty great because I was actually doing my student teaching in Messina with Daryl Billington, which was the superintendent's wife at the time. Dr. Billington was St. Lawrence's superintendent. And he happened to be walking through the halls one day, and I had an issue in my class. He liked the way that I dealt with it. And at the time, just after that, one of the teachers retired from Mrs. Sennett, which you would probably remember, Joe.
Yep.
She retired from Brazier, and he offered me a position. And I've been there ever since. And I've really – I lucked out in a way that it just all kind of fell into my lap, and it was the best way things could happen. I've truly enjoyed myself there. It's been a great community to work for and a great school to work for me.
Well, obviously, being a lifer here, we love the guys that stick it out, and you're obviously one of those guys. So,
Yeah.
With plenty of time left to go, right, Coach?
I've got enough. Not a lot, but I have enough.
Okay.
I don't know, 6 years, 7 years, something like that, I guess. You know,
Okay.
I keep coming until they tell me I don't have to come anymore. So that's my plan.
So when you got here, was Joe Drenville still coaching varsity softball at that point? Or
Actually,
was
Actually, he wasn't. Mr. Bronte was. And I'd been coaching modified football with Randy Roy for a couple of years, and I got to know Mr. Mahoney and Dick Kootware, those legends. You know, I got to know all those guys by coaching modified football with Randy Roy. Had a great time, and it was in 2001 that Joe came back, and he was getting ready to retire, I guess, and I didn't know how it all worked, and he said, we're going to reshape the program. And I went in 2001 and I said, hey, I'd like to try to coach modified. And they gave me the job, and I did that for a couple of years behind him. And we did. We changed the program. He started out with a whole bunch of freshmen, and he took his lumps the first couple of years, and then but he groomed them for me to come in, and it's been a nice ride ever since. So I came in behind him, I guess.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously you were lucky enough you were able to learn from somebody that that did some things that obviously you've accomplished now yourself, taking a team to the state Final Four. And Joe, I'm hopeful that we can get Joe on this show at some point, and maybe this one would be the impetus for him to come on. But a lot of people forget how good of a softball coach that he was and what he did in the 80s. Because St. Lawrence Central, during my time in the 80s, going to school there, that St. Lawrence Central was just known as the softball power for a 4 or 5 year stretch, and now you've brought that back. So
yeah,
I
I knew that I had some big shoes to fill, and there was a history there, and I kind of take it personally that I want to make sure that I do a good job. But plus, I had the first couple of years, I had some people in the community that I worked with and who were coaches themselves. I had their kids, and it just you had to do the job well and do it right. You can't be a fly-by-nighter. That's not the way I'm designed, I guess.
right.
And I've done it ever since.
Well, and you mentioned that too. With the history that was already built up, you're going to have when new guy taking over. I mean, we all go through this, but new guy taking over. Who's this guy? He's not a St. Lawrence Central guy, and it probably did take a couple of years in that, but boy, you sure it's taken off ever since. So
Yeah.
Got your 300th win last season.
Yep.
Took your first team to the Final Four. I mean, you've coached Lindsay Thayer. There's just tons of things. There's tons of things we can talk about here, but when it comes to the softball program, but and I don't know where directly you want to go to start this out, but I mean, if you want to talk about those first few years and what you learned and how you got it to the point that you've got it to now.
Yeah. Like I said, I started with Joe had really taken a bunch of freshmen who were very good athletes, and they'd been playing modified for a couple of years, but he took them, and he also took a very young 8th grade Mariana Locke, which is a name that most people around here in the North Country know, and put her on shortstop. And Stephanie Buckley was the pitcher, and so they had a really good, solid cast of characters. that he had for a couple years, and then the kids that I had for a couple years. Now they all kind of went up with me after a couple years, and the timing was really good for us to do well record-wise, but we weren't able to get past the likes of a Jaylene Johnson in Salmon, who was a very good pitcher. There was Elisa Arquette out of Norwood, who was very good. We beat both of them in regular season, but when it came time in playoffs, we just couldn't get it done. And I believe Jaylene, she took her team to the Final Four, I think in 2004, I believe, if I remember correctly. So it was a really solid, really good, solid softball in the area. And a lot of philosophies that I started with then, I still have now. And the girls know there's a routine that we follow, and it continues from year to year. The players change, but the philosophy of hard work and teamwork is the most important, and no one's higher than the team. And that's the way we do things, kind of. So a lot of the things that I started out with, I still do.
Did you have a tough time at first, Coach, setting up, I shouldn't say setting up a routine, but having the biggest problem with coaches is having the kids buy into their routine and then making it happen. Did you have that problem when you first started? And then, or of course, it shouldn't be an issue now. They know what's going to happen, but I mean, initially, that's usually the hardest thing.
I didn't. I have to say I'm very fortunate that I came into like I said, a great group of kids that I had some of them for a couple of years with me on modified. And then I moved into that group that was there, but I was always with Joe. So they knew me. I had a lot of them in class. So it was a really great transition. And I had like I said, I had a veteran group of girls and they were great. They were good students. A lot of them are still good community members. So I really didn't have that. And I always remember Kathy Locke saying to me that Mariana, who I respected as an athlete, and her dad I respect as a coach, and Mariana went home and said, we have a great coach here. So, and she told me that later. She didn't tell me that the next day or anything, but that made me feel pretty well, that we were doing things right. And we started doing a lot of things as a team. So it was a lot of fun. Great group of kids. They actually just got in the Hall of Fame, last year, Joe? That group?
Yeah, within the last couple, yeah.
Yeah. They were a great group of players. And that is a team that I wish I could get back, at times, because I've learned a lot since then about the game and things like that. And they were just a really fun group to coach.
You mentioned something that it strikes me because, I was not a teacher. And when I came in as your athletic director, I had coached for 13 years. But the one thing that I've learned since being there is how I think times have changed, where we had that stretch where a lot of coaches were parents or outside of the school system coaches, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with. But the more I've been around it, the more I'm starting to realize, boy, it really helps to have a daily connection, not just at practice, a daily connection around the kids. And I think you would speak to that being a teacher. I'm not saying you need to be a teacher to be a coach. I'm just saying it helps to have more than just show up at 5:30, find out so-and-so's in a really pissy mood today, and you don't know why, right. And you can't cut her or him any slack. And I just think it really helps. It's really helped me as a coach. And I think you would say the same. Being around the kids all day really helps when it comes to coaching.
Yes, it does. I mean, coaching is an extension of the classroom. It's just a different form of teaching. And it does help. I have great connections with kids in my room and in the school and in the halls. So it does help on the field. And I tell a lot of the new teachers, I say, if you can get involved with those activities with kids outside of school, it will make your work in the classroom even easier and better, because you do learn more about them outside of school, just your classroom. And, that's why when I started doing modified football, I mean, I still see some of the guys that I coached in modified football, and, we laugh about the things that we did. And it was a lot of fun. And it really did give me an insight into the kids, their backgrounds, and their parents and things like that. So it really helps. I think.
Well, and I say this because I think you deserve a lot of credit. You're not the only one, but you deserve a lot of credit because extracurricular activities, you're there.
Yeah.
I think of the nights that we do the seniors versus faculty basketball game.
Yeah.
And you're out there with a bad hip, still out there trying to do it, playing a sport that, it's not really your sport, but the kids, they remember those things. They eat that stuff up. And the fact that you care like that, I think blue and white night. I know you used to like to come to blue and white night all the time. So, those little things really make a difference with the kids when you can do that. And you've always been really good at that.
And being able to talk to them about their game or their, what they did. And, I always look at the paper, or if I didn't get to the game, I look and see who did what. Or I tell them, nice job last night. It just makes it makes their day. Somebody's noticing, somebody's paying attention. And just, it's a nice way to make a simple connection, that you can use to your advantage later as either a coach or a teacher. It's just a way in, so, and it's fun.
You mentioned something too earlier that I wrote down too with Dave and Pete here, because they're both Salmon River boys. But, you brought something up that I think a lot of people, it's been so long now, I think a lot of people forget. The Salmon River was a Class C school for the longest time. And now they've been a Class B school. So as far as St. Lawrence Central is concerned, they're not really impactful with us anymore. But boy, there was a time, Class C battles in all the sports, baseball, basketball, softball, soccer. Speak to those few years, because you mentioned those Salmon River teams when you first started out. They were obviously a problem for you back in that time.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they had a really good – obviously the game starts on the mound, and Jaylene was an exceptional thrower. She could throw with the best of them. But she also had a great cast of characters behind them. They were a solid squad, and they were tough. They were tough for several years, Obviously, Joe got beat around with them a little bit. We did end up beating them the year they went to the Final Four. We beat them down at their place, but they were good. They were solid. They were competitors too. There was a small. I can still see that she wasn't really big in size, but man, she was a tremendous third baseman. I didn't get to coach against her though. And I, for the life of me, I can't think of her name. I know she played when Joe was there. Very short in stature, but she was solid and she was tough, gritty. Just the kind of kids you love to coach. And Jaylene, she had an uncle, Benny Hearn, I believe, was her uncle. And Benny was a fast pitch player that I played with, and he had coached her, and she was good. She was very good.
Yeah, he instructs a lot of area kids that are pitchers.
Yeah.
I know Benny real well. He actually was trying to transition my youngest daughter from catcher to pitcher.
Okay.
But realized that she was always going to be a catcher. But she had what it took to be a pitcher, and we'd worked all winter. A little secret, when I was living up there, and of course being a coach, you had access to off hours in the gyms. So Ashley my youngest daughter Ashley and Benny we'd go in the small gym down near the arena, and we spent hours trying to perfect her pitching. But yeah, Benny is very inspirational. Some of the kids in our area up there too, and he still plays too.
Yeah. He actually, I played ball with him. I played ball against him. And I can't remember. It was after Jaylene graduated, but he would come down and he'd throw batting practice to my team a couple times when we were advancing in state play and stuff like that. And great guy, And I like, you talk about your daughter being a pitcher. A lot of kids have all the tools, but they might not have just that one little thing that you need. And I tell every catcher that I've ever had, you're going to be abused and you're not going to get the credit you deserve, but you cannot play the game without the catcher.
Mhm.
And the catcher is I don't give them the credit they deserve because I want them to be tough and gritty and think that they're up against the world, because they need to be that have that mentality. But you can't play the game without them. And they're very important. And I was a catcher myself. So,
So you know firsthand. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what I mean, probably about not getting the credit you deserve, but
They do, and sometimes, most of the time, it's the catcher that directs the traffic out there,
yeah.
getting the information from the coach, and they're directing the traffic out there that he wants to relay. So,
Yep.
I understand it completely.
Well, and Coach, how hard is it? So I want this to come out right, but it's not like the pros where you're just inundated with players coming. You're trying. You have to draw a fine line. I see Coach Dow do this with the baseball team. You got to draw a fine line. Boy, I really need him behind the plate, but boy, I could really use him out in the field too. So I mean, it's a tough spot because it'd be a lot different if he had no catching ability whatsoever. It makes it a simple decision.
Right.
But if that person's got catching ability, is that your first thought? Boy, this could be my next catcher.
Well, I mean, you can't play the game without one.
Yeah.
And it is probably the second spot that I look at as being, the most important, if not the most important, because if the ball gets by the catcher, anybody that's on first is now on second. And if it happens again, she's on third, and it just doesn't work if you don't have that spot back there. And fortunately, I mean, I've been blessed with some great catchers and some great pitchers and kids, and they have to want to be there. They have to want to be there. That's probably the biggest thing, that spot. And they have to say that spot's mine and no one's going to take it.
Well, and the thing with a catcher, I mean, you got a great pitcher, but that one pitcher can't pitch every day. But that catcher is behind the plate every day.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
You had a good 1-2 punch here recently with Lindsay and the Agins girl.
I did. I did.
I broadcast quite a few of your games up there. Just sat behind the backstop and I tell you what, a phenomenal 1-2 play right there.
I've been blessed with some great kids that wanted to pitch and worked hard at it, and kids that wanted to catch, and the pitcher catcher combination, you just can't. It's not something that it's a magic thing, and when it's working, it's fantastic. When you see those, and I've been, like I said, I've been fortunate all the way down, all the way up through. I've had great pitcher catcher combinations. They get along very well, and they work well together. But that combination that you're talking about was pretty good.
Well,
that's for sure.
And I guess that leads into the next string, because obviously the one thing I think of when it came to St. Lawrence Central softball is the legendary pitchers that we have funneled out of this school.
Yeah.
So I'm going to mention some of Joe's, and I guarantee I'm going to miss somebody, but I remember Holly, Heidi, Amy Hazen, the Hazen girls, who started their own pitching academy. Yep. Holly and Heidi did. Today just happens to be Beth Kilcoyne's birthday, a Hall of Famer at SLC. She might have been, before Lindsay, to me, was the best female athlete that ever came out of St. Lawrence Central, just an overall athlete.
Right.
Danielle Brown-Wilson, it comes to mind. And then, of course, I think the three Thayer girls and Micaiah Ramsdell I'll let you take it from there. But I mean, we have funneled out pitchers that went on and played in college out of this school. We are a factory when it comes to that.
There's a lot of good names right there, boy. I'll tell you.
Very
A lot of
good.
good.
Very good. And that's one of the things that I try to. I'm going to throw in, Stephanie Buckley and Mallory Buckley was a very proficient pitcher, and then I'm going to talk about Keisha Sebring and Dawn McAllen. Keisha Sebring won my first sectional championship, and so it's one thing that I stress to the girls is you have to want to be on that mound. If you don't want to be on that mound and you don't want to have everybody looking at you every single pitch, it's not the place for you. And I really ask them to do some self-reflection, and I put them on the spot, because if you're going to crumble with me putting you on the spot, that's not going to be the position for you. And I expect them to be strong mentally and physically. And I don't make them do a workout or anything like that, but they do have to be prepared. And fortunately, they've had great parents that have worked with them. And, for example, Lindsay, she went down to Danielle or Heidi's pitching clinic and, worked with them when she was younger. And then she ended up playing with those guys down there as well as Haley. So it opened up a lot of avenues, and that St. Lawrence Central connection was awesome for me to open up, because I like the past, and I respect the past. And that's what I felt I had to do with, the past that Joe created. I felt I needed to kind of work hard to live up to that, so, and we've been very fortunate and coming all the way up through, with Sarah and Ashley and Lindsay, and then Micaiah and Bailey Gauthier. I mean, we've been solid in that position for a long time, but again, behind the plate, we've been very solid as well. So
somebody's got to catch him.
Somebody has to catch him.
I know I've walked through that gym enough to see those girls throw, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to be the one squatting there trying to catch that. No, that makes it sound like they're wild. No, it's just the heat that's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I've caught a lot. I've caught a lot of them myself, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of catching, then in that regard, then I'm going to give you a chance because I know you got to give a shout out, but I know as somebody that lives right next to the Tri-Town Community Center, I don't know how many times. For a while there, I thought Randy. I never really knew Randy Thayer. I thought for a while he was only 4'2" and that a bucket came out of his ass. That's all I ever saw was him from the road, sitting on top of a bucket, catching all three of his daughters. Prepping them for you. So I can't imagine the amount of balls that guy has caught. Throughout the years.
He's caught a lot, and. And he's helped me with the team, and he's been with us, and he's a great friend of mine. Couldn't have done any of this without all his work too, and that kind of dedication he's shown, and it shows up in his daughters as well. They're great kids, and same thing with Tony Ramsdell and all the coaches, the catchers that I've had before. The pitchers, it's because their dad's out there or someone's out there willing to catch for them, but. Yeah, Randy's caught a lot, and I think I can remember a couple of times when Lindsay was in college and I had the gym, and she would come in and throw when she was home from vacation or something like that, and he'd come in and catch for her. And I can still picture a day a few years ago now. He caught one in the wrong spot, and I saw it, and I said, "Oh, that had to hurt." And he still tells me that finger's numb from time to time, and it hurt. If you catch it in the wrong spot, it's gonna hurt. And so, but yeah.
Well, I always thought, Randy is he's certainly not underappreciated by you. But I always thought he was underappreciated by the rest of us because, he played a big part with his three daughters. But it's just the amount of time. And for people like me that were living next to this ballpark, at some point I'd start hearing a click, click,
Yeah.
Oh, must be the Thayer girls are overthrowing and Randy's
Yeah.
catching. And I'd go out in my yard and I can see home plate from my yard. And there's
Yeah.
Randy on top of a bucket catching balls. So
Yeah, and I think if he would do it right now if one of them said they wanted to go throw.
I bet.
No. I know he would. I would too. I would right now. If someone called me, I'd go right now. You gotta love to do it, And
Well,
his personality. A lot of the girls really like his personality because he helped Ryan with basketball, Chad with basketball. I mean, he's just got a great personality. He likes to compete, which that's one of the things I stress is might not win every game, but you'll compete every game to the best of your ability, and that's one thing he's instilled in his girls, and in any kid he coaches, or helps work with.
Well, and so, you've had all that help from Randy, but, Tony and Tommy as well. I mean, both SLC Hall of Famers. Tony, and again, we forget Tony Ramsdale's, he pitched Division I in college at Wright State, and then Tommy Agins is just is a legend around here when it comes to hitting the softball. Look at Pete's already smirking already. So,
I know Tommy
Tommy will be the first one to talk to you about hitting. I can guarantee you that. So
Mhm.
I know you got to give them their love. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to actually go back a little farther, and probably somebody who put me in a good mentality. I had Mickey Locke as my scorekeeper for my first several years. I don't know how he did it with the golf course, but he never missed a game, and he was always there. And he was a calming influence, and then, Randy started coming around when we went to Glens Falls, and then he's joined me, and then Tommy came in, and I've played against Tommy, and I played with Tommy for a long time. And they're just great guys. They're great guys to have around. And the knowledge they have in regards to the game, yes, it was the game of baseball, but a lot of it is transitional in terms of concepts and things like that. And I mean, with Tony, obviously he's a pitcher, so he's got that pitcher's mentality. And the only thing that's different is going from overhand to underhand. The idea is, you have to be a pitcher, not just somebody who stands out there and throws the ball. And that's one of the things after a while that we do tend to work on is become a pitcher, not just a thrower. And that's why some of those girls have done so well in college, is we try to get them to learn how to pitch, not just throw. But their knowledge has been second to none. And they're great guys. They're great. The girls love them. I don't want to say I'm bad cop, but I'm a little bit more firm than they are. So I'll give them the good cop and I'll take the bad cop if it means we keep having success,
The head coach is always the bad cop.
Yeah. Kind of.
Gotta be, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Coach, one thing I do want to bring up, I'm sure it's on Joey's list. You guys do a annual trip to Florida, and I want to know when you started that, and how'd you come up with the thought of process of doing that?
Well, we started out. It was in I think 2008 that I started to go down to Herkimer, and we played in Mudville, which is a great tournament that Perry Novak runs down there. And I was all excited, and I told the girls, trying to do some different things, trying to get some excitement rolling because we were a solid team, and we just won our first Class C championship, or my first Class C championship, I should say. And so then I brought it up to that group, I think in 2009, to that group that I had, and there wasn't any interest. But we kept going to Mudville. And I got a flyer in the mail one day, and I said, hey, we could do this. Well, we were down in Mudville, and I had Kelly Richards and Jim Groh, his daughters Emily and Megan and Caitlin Groh. And we were at the hotel after our Mudville trip because we'd stayed down there. And they were looking up something, and I said, so, fellas, we could do this if you wanted to. And that was in 2011, the spring of 2011. And I showed them, and they were all excited. And I said, fellas, I'm in. We got permission, and we started. Our first year that we went was in 2012. And then we go every other year, so that a lot of kids have the opportunity to go. So we've gone in 12, 14, 16, 18. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go this spring, but it's a lot of fundraising, but it's good fundraising. We do a trivia night, and we do a lot of really fun, different things. Just try to keep it as fun, and a lot of the girls do a lot of the work, and so it's special to them when they get to do it. And it's a great opportunity for some of these kids that have never had the opportunity to go or may never have the opportunity to go. To play at Disney is amazing, and then the magic of Disney is just that much more. And I can see right now, I'm going to mention a guy that Joe knows. Dougie Villeneuve was a parent of a daughter of mine, or of a player of mine. And there he comes on our first day down there by the pool. And Dougie is a great guy, and he's loving it. And I had a couple of dads that it's probably the first thing they've ever done with just their daughter by themselves. And every time they see me, they thank me for that opportunity. So if they're willing to do it, I'm willing to do it. Any chance I can get.
How'd you fare down there, Coach? I know one year you did real well, but
if I always tell people, we played teams from all over the place, and we've only been waxed. I mean, really waxed once. That was by a team from Chicago. But if I played to win, and I don't, I bat everybody, I play everybody every game. We played the non-official games, so everybody plays everybody, no lineup or anything like that. We've really been out of our league for one game. And if I played to win, we would have a better than average record down there, I'd say. So it's been great. They do a nice job pairing you up with teams that you're comparable to, so they get the pairings really fairly well. We actually a couple years in 2018, it was so late, we only played BFA Fairfax out of Vermont. We actually tied and won both. So, but it was close. It was just great. It was a lot of fun meeting new people. It's fun meeting new teams and new people, and it's a great experience.
It's funny you mentioned Mudville. I think every team in the North Country should go experience that once.
Yeah.
We went down twice. My oldest daughter, who played for Salmon, she was also a catcher. And the one year, I know exactly why they call it Mudville.
Yeah.
It's in a little bowl. If anybody's ever been down, a little bowl, and it catches all the water. And one year we went down, and it was perfect up till the night before our game, and the floodgates opened.
Yeah.
We went there the next day, and I never seen such a place in my life that it was so muddy. But anyway, it is an experience. And the next year after that, it was so dry.
Yeah.
It was actually hurts for the girls to slide.
Yeah.
So you get you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
There's been a couple times.
There's been experienced.
I mean, I can remember the first time telling them we're going to be playing on these nice fields, and we pulled into the parking lot, and I was like, holy cow. But the ball was excellent, and we've beaten teams down there that we should lose to, we've beaten teams down there we should probably lose to, and we've lost to teams that we should probably beat. And I've won it once, which was pretty nice. Which it's just a great experience. But last year, no, not this past season, but 2018, 19 now, there were piles of snow in the outfield, and if it hit the snow, it was a ground rule double.
Wow.
Perry has done an incredible amount of work on the fields down there. A lot of work. All the fencing is redone. He's done just a great amount of stuff. Plus, it gives one of the reasons. Not one of the reasons I go, but it also gives a chance to see some of the other teams from the area, from the state. So you know who you're up against at the next level, should you see them. And it gives them a chance to see you. because Perry has a lot to do with the all-state rankings and things like that for the press down there. So it's nice to let them see those players against other players of that caliber, so they can get some recognition at the next level. So I mean, the best year we had down there was Lindsay when she was a senior. We played Elmira Heights, Thomas Edison, I think it is, Elmira Heights. And the coach that was there at the time, she would bring all of her seniors out. All of her seniors were captains. Well, she brings out 8 girls. So she's got 8 seniors. And I don't really pay much attention to stuff, but I said, well, I only have 1 senior, but she's pretty good. And they were ranked number 1 in the state, but I didn't know that until about the 5th inning. And Randy tells me, Coach, just so you know, that's the number 1 ranked team in the state right there, and we're beating them 2-0. And we ended up beating them 2-0. And that was the only loss they had all year. They did win the state championship. And I think they would have liked to have seen us again, I'm sure, to try to revenge that. But,
I'm sure.
I would have liked to, if I knew if we'd see them again, it would have been in the Final Four. But I had a really young supporting cast behind Lindsay, and we didn't get it done. But it was great to say that we beat this eventual state champion.
It's a good. I know when we went down, there was a lot of college scouts around there, also watching that. So it's a great venue for the kids to get noticed.
Yep.
So.
Yep. It is nice for them to see too, and it's a long day. It's a lot of fun. It's a long trip, and we have lunch and stuff like that. It's just a lot of fun. It's a great experience, And I'm all about the experience of the game, and the idea of the team, and get as much out of it as you possibly can, because you never know when your last game is going to be upon you. Which is like this year.
The girls that played last year didn't, would have never thought that.
No. So their last game was the Final Four, and there's no good spin. And I told them all, my seniors this year, there's no good spin I can put on this for you. Just remember, when you get the opportunity to play, I try to use it for everybody else. Get everything you can out of it, because you never know when your last game's going to be.
Yep.
Even coaching wise, you just don't think about it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, since you brought up the Final Four, obviously I wanted to bring that up, because obviously that was your first trip down there last year, and just the experience. Number one, the game that you won to get there, down 2-0, bottom of 7, right? Came back against a really good. That was one of the better defensive teams I've ever seen. They were making plays on you that whole game until the 7th inning.
Yeah.
You put the ball in play and you put the pressure on them.
Yeah, and I tell the girls all the time, anything can happen in this game. I mean, here we are, we're down 2-0. Going in the bottom of the 7th, but I said we got our 3, 4, 5 hitters up. Well, our leadoff gets on. Well, the next girl grounds into a force at second, so now we got 1 out. Then the next girl grounds into a force at second, we got 2 outs. So now we've got bottom of the order up, and I tell them all the time, you never know when your opportunity is going to be, And the bottom of the order, I mean, they did some great things, and I've never been so happy in all my life to see a girl get hit with a pitch. But when Sarah Adams stayed in there and got hit with that pitch, I mean, that was the deciding factor right there. And Maggie was feeling bad, because she did have an error that caused a run, not both, but she came through with that hit, and she went from the bottom to the top just like that. And you can't you got to let it go. I mean, you got to forget what happened, because you never know the opportunity you'll get. But that was some excitement right there. You write stories about that.
Yeah.
How it ended. I don't think there was for anybody from the St. Lawrence side, I think everybody can say that was probably the most excitement they've seen in quite a while. You know, and from the
Yeah,
North.
I went from talking to somebody going, yeah, looks like my golf tournament's on to hey, I got a chance at winning, going to Glens Falls. And speaking of that, that was absolutely fine. I mean, it was awesome to be able to go down there. And I don't know if Pete and Dave, if you've ever been to the girls' Final Four for softball, but what a that venue anyway in Glens Falls. What a venue for that. You got 4 games going on at one time. And Tim, Coach Brown's game. Did you follow that like 19 inning, or was that on another field? Because we were watching. I just remember
it was on the other field.
Okay.
It was on the other field, yeah.
It was like a 19 inning game.
Yeah.
I can't remember now and who it was, but that was one of the things I remember about that weekend. But just what a great venue! 4 fields, 4 games going on in all classes. It's that's a pretty nice trip if you're into softball. Even if your team's not involved, you get a nice day down there, boy. You can watch some quality games.
It's a great. I mean, unfortunately, it's moving down. I say unfortunately, but I believe it's moving down to the bottom of New York City towards New Jersey area, Long Island area. I mean, and all turf fields. I guess it's a beautiful, beautiful complex, but that's a pretty nice place to watch a game and to be around softball. There's just some great players there, a lot of coaches. Great atmosphere for kids. And they did a very nice job with the parade and everything around the infield and stuff like that. It was really nice, and it was a great experience. But that night, I ended up texting another couple of coaches, Jenna Chamberlain and Julie Goodman. I said, "Okay, ladies, now I've always wanted to just get there." I said, "Now, how do we win that first game?" So I relished it I was happy for a few hours with just getting there, but now I want to compete at the next level. So I hope to. I think if we would have faced either of the other 2 teams, I think we would have had a much better opportunity. We wouldn't have had much left in the tank for that next team because they were very good. They were solid. They could hit. They could play. And she could throw. So I'm not going to take anything away from them. I would have liked to have shot at one of the other 2 teams, though.
I think she could also hit too. Didn't she? Did she hit a home run against Kaya? Did the pitcher hit a home? No, it wasn't her.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. She might have. I can't remember.
Well, Coach, you're right. I mean, and again, you have an athletic director that supports. I love the fact that you go down to Mudville. I mean, I do that stuff myself now. The kids look forward to that, and that's what sets them up for making that trip. That you just made to the Final Four. Now, maybe the game didn't go the way you wanted to, but they probably weren't totally, flabbergasted by the moment because they've made a trip and they've played out of section schools. And I'm all for that. I wish all our teams would do that, and I try to push my coaches in that direction. God bless Section 10. But we're trying to win. I want to win a state championship or win a state playoff game. You got to get out of here to do it.
Yeah.
So
and I always tell people, I mean, and I don't want to sound conceited or anything like that, but we have been fortunate to be very solid and for a long time in softball now. Since 2000. Since 2005, we've won 12 titles. So that's pretty good. And we've had some undefeated seasons, things like that. So the reason that I go to Mudville is to play those teams because I'm a firm believer in sometimes you have to know how to lose. And sometimes losing can be a good thing to get you back on the right track to win again. Because if you win all the time, you take it for granted. You don't appreciate it as much. But boy, then after that time when you lose, and it's that kick in the guts, now it comes back and you can remember. We don't want to do that again. Let's fight. Let's fight a little harder this time. Especially when you lose to somebody that you shouldn't lose to. Which is disappointing. But and it's just a great experience to get to play other people.
Creates a little fire in the belly there if you get that loss.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I totally
and
understand.
I get pretty fired up, so
Mhm.
I get pretty fired up.
Must be a St. Lawrence coaches.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
If
Joey never does. So.
yeah, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, not much sense in doing it. You know,
That's right.
I mean, I put a lot into it. I expect the girls to give me everything they can, everything they're capable of, and I try not to compare them to each other, but I want everything they have for that 2.5 hours that I have you. I'm not saying it's the most important thing, but I want everything that you have, you know, because you're getting everything that I have. I've been pretty fortunate to have a wife that's very understanding. She allows me to do this, and I don't want to say she can't stop me, but if she was mad enough, I probably would have to do something. But she also gets to go to Disney every couple of years, so that makes it makes it worth it.
The trade-off, yeah.
And you know, we've been fortunate I've been fortunate to be around so many great players. We've been invited to a lot of weddings and graduation parties, and I'm very close to a lot of the kids and the families. It's been absolutely fantastic for me. I can't picture myself not doing it. That's something that I don't even think about. You know, a couple times there was probably 2 years ago, a couple players that just graduated this past season, and it comes about every few years. Hey, I heard you're quitting. You know, after Lindsay leaves. Hey, I heard you're quitting after Bailey leaves. You know, and no, until I say I'm done, I'm not, or until they say I can't do it anymore. I love it. You know.
Well, I don't have any plans on telling you you're done. So,
and it's been good. It's been great. It's been an absolute great ride. You know, it's been a great ride. We've won a lot, but I still want to win one more. for sure. You know, so.
You know, it's really it's great having interviewed so many coaches that, you know, you can tell that the like you said, the passion and the dedication, you know, to me, it's just enjoyable to listen to you talk about your sport, talk about your teams, talk about your games. You know, I really like it as a, you know, just as a sports guy. I just love listening to it.
Yeah. Well, I could talk about it for a long time.
Yeah.
I've had fantastic kids, and they've been, and Joe can attest to this, and I tell them all they've been great students. And I will. There was at one point where I cut a girl in 9th grade who was an exceptional athlete because she wasn't passing 3 of her classes, and I said, I hope I never have to see this again. She never failed another class, 10 through 12. She ended up going to college. And she did come back, play softball 10 through 12. But I can still I can still remember telling her, it broke my heart to do it, but I had to, because she just needed to learn that school comes first. Because if you're a good student and you're coachable, you're going to be a good athlete. You know, you're going to be a good teammate. You're going to be a good athlete. And I tell the girls, everybody has a role. And they've all been fantastic about it. You know, so.
Well, I can speak for the fact that I think since I've been there, and I'm sure he won many before that, was they've been our softball team is constantly a New York State scholar athlete team, which is quite a compliment to our girls and Coach Brown and how he does things there. So they were a scholar athlete team again this spring. That was the one thing they were able to win this spring. So.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, I know we're getting close to winding down. I can't thank you enough for coming on, and you know, a lot of great history, and a lot of great stories about our softball program at St. Lawrence Central, and you know, here's hoping we are back in September, and we can start thinking about real seasons again.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yep.
Very soon.
I hope so. I hope so. It's just it's disappointing when the kids can't get to play because it's something they enjoy to do. You know, every sport. You know, they need those things. We got to have them. Somehow we have to figure out a way to try to do it, but I don't know how we can. But I miss it. I miss it every day.
Yeah. Well, right now you wouldn't want to be in the building right now anyway. I was in there
No.
today. Holy cow, it's a war zone in there
Yeah,
right
I
now.
heard that.
All
So
three gyms are not unavailable right now.
Really?
Even if we wanted to, we couldn't be in there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the program. We've done some really good things, and hopefully we continue to do some good things. We've had a lot of support from the community, and the kids just enjoy playing. So that's what I look forward to.
Well, thanks for coming on, Coach. I really appreciate it. It was an honor talking to you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
That's going to be it for tonight, folks, on ESS Empire State Sports and the Wise Guy Sports Talk Show. Our host, Joey Reholm, Dave Bartlett, myself, and our special guest, Tim Brown. I want to thank everybody for watching and stay safe out there. Good night, everybody.
See you guys. Thank you.